Hey everyone, Ewan here, this is What Culture, and today I want to talk about Heat 2. And unfortunately, not for good reasons, because according to rumors, Warner Brothers are really Warner Brothersing it, and it makes my little Michael Mann fan heart break. So I'm sorry for all my fellow members of the Michael Mann fandom / Michael Mandom. This one's gonna be a bit painful. Now, good news, first thing first, Heat 2 has not been cancelled. That's the main thing I want to get out of the way because I realized that initial opening salvo was a little bit doom and gloom. But things have been a little bit frustrating, and I'm going to get into them now. So for those of you who haven't been keeping up with the ins and outs of Michael Mann's career in the past few years, Heat 2 is his confirmed next project. His last film was Ferrari, which came out in 2023 and starred Adam Driver. But before that, in 2022, he co-wrote Heat 2 as a novel alongside Meg Gardner. And the book itself is fantastic. Seriously, I devoured it in a few days, and it really is everything you'd want from a Heat sequel / prequel. The story itself is kind of a dual narrative. We have stuff that takes place in the 1980s, focusing on Neil's crew as they take down a score, and one that kind of really leads to a formative character moment for Neil, whilst at the same time Vincent Hanna's on their trail, which is really, really cool. And then we have another section of the narrative which takes place in 2000, where we follow Chris Shaherlis, of course played by the late great Val Kilmer. And then the two narratives kind of collide in a way I won't spoil, but made for personally one of the most cathartic reading experiences that I can remember in recent memory. Since the project was announced, there have been long gestating rumors that Adam Driver will be playing a younger version of Neil McCauley and that Austin Butler will be playing Chris Shaherlis, and yeah, I think those are two just perfect casting choices. There's also rumors potentially of Al Pacino returning as Vincent Hanna. I don't know if maybe Mann's going to employ some digital de-aging technology like we saw with The Irishman and Martin Scorsese a few years back, obviously. And Ana de Armas has also been rumored for the project, which, again, it's shaping up really, really nicely. Mann himself has also been providing periodic teasers of how the project is progressing. We know that even though he co-wrote the novel, that obviously for a film you have to adapt that and readapt it and kind of cut things down and recontextualize certain scenes. So he's been busy working on the script, which has been completed. And the casting phase, according to rumor a few weeks ago, was finally moving ahead. And this came after a few concerning reports that Warner Brothers were dragging their heels on the film's mooted budget. Mann apparently initially planned for a $200 million budget for Heat 2, which if you've read the novel, you'll understand it makes sense why he'd need that much, but then Warner Bros. Got him to go down to about 170 mil. But apparently, according to a recent report, that's still too high for them. It's Michael Mann, just let him cook. So tragically, earlier this week, Matthew Belloni, writing in his column Puck, and for those who don't know, Belloni's pretty reliable, seems to have his kind of ear to the ground on all sorts of Hollywood wheelings and dealings, basically said that Warner Brothers are still a little bit trepidatious about the budget requirements for Heat 2 and are now exploring co-financing arrangements with streaming services. Yeah. Belloni says that, quote, Warner's Mike DeLuca and Pam Abdi want to make the movie, but Mann's initial budget came in at more than $200 million per two sources close to the discussions. He's brought that down to about $170 million per one of those sources, but still too rich for Warner's blood. The first Heat, starring De Niro, Pacino, and Val Kilmer, made $187 million worldwide in 1995, which would translate to almost $400 million today, but Mann's more recent work has grossed less, of course referring to Ferrari in that instance, and also Black Hat, which is an amazing movie that if you haven't seen, you really should go and do that as soon as you can. Warner's is open to potentially partnering with another studio or streamer on the prequel film, which would be based on Mann's best-selling 2022 book, so his team has given the script to Apple for consideration. In a twist, Leo DiCaprio has had conversations with Mann about starring. if Leo is actually serious, brackets, always a question with him, love that little bit of shade being thrown there, that would likely push this project past the goal line. Now, okay, so there's some good stuff in there, there's also some bad stuff. The good stuff is that Warner Brothers actually do want to make the movie, so come rain or shine, I think it's gonna get over the finish line. However, the big frustrating thing with all of this, again, is that Michael Mann is one of the greatest auteurs of the 20th and 21st centuries. He's the guy who gave us Thief, Last of the Mohicans, The Insider, Manhunter, and also the 2006 Miami Vice movie, which is really, really good if you somehow kind of decided that it wasn't good at some point. That movie is great, I'm sorry. And also Collateral as well. Don't know if I just mentioned that or not. But anyway, there's so much good Mann stuff that he has thrown out into the movie sphere. And the fact that a sequel to one of the most culturally beloved movies of the 90s, a film that brought together Al Pacino and Robert De Niro, arguably the two greatest living actors, the fact that that's not a no-brainer for Warner Brothers and that they don't want to throw as much money at this thing to make it as great as it can be for a filmmaker who has already given so much to the form and to, different studios as well, it's really annoying. I know that Hollywood is a business, I know that the studios need to think smartly about these things, but I just think that Heat 2 is one of those movies where you look at it and go, okay, what do you need? Don't take the mick or anything, but seriously, what do you need? And let's get it done. I've also got a little bit of anxiety about streaming services potentially getting in the mix here. Like, I know that in Apple's case, they obviously threw all that money behind Scorsese for Killers of the Flower Moon, which was amazing, but despite that film getting a decent theatrical run, in the years since, we've had no proper physical media release. It's just kind of been locked away on Apple TV, which I don't want to see happen with Heat 2. Again, I don't think that would happen if it's a co-financing thing, but just a thing in my head that could potentially cause an issue. I have no idea how the specifics of these agreements tend to be worked out, but if I was coming to that position from Apple and I had the potential to have Heat 2 go video on demand or, actually be streaming on Apple TV before rivals like Warner Brothers' own service, HBO Max, then yeah, I'm gonna lobby for that. The alternative is, of course, that a different production company / studio comes in and co-finances it, which would be better to me, even if the coffers won't be as big as, the likes of Apple or Netflix could put up, for instance. But in any case, the Leo rumors are also quite interesting. More encouraging, we're getting into lighter, happier territory here, because I don't really think he's suited to play either, Vincent Hanna or Neil McCauley. And I do think that Adam Driver is nailed on for that latter role, and I also do think that Austin Butler as Chris Shaherlis is the industry's worst kept secret. But I do think he would be amazing as Wardell, who is the big sicko antagonist of the Heat 2 novel. Wardell in the book is just an absolute son of a gun that is really, really grotesque, and I do think that Leo could really get his mitts into it, sink his teeth into that part, and make him a truly menacing antagonist for, everyone to get really PO'd about and want to suffer some kind of calamity, as Wayne Grow did in the original Heat. The other rumor online is that he could be playing Nate, who was John Voight's character in the original Heat and has a decent-ish sized role in the novel. But either way, it would be cool to have Leo here. I think initially the casting doesn't make that much sense to me, but if there's any way that his involvement leads to us getting a world where Heat 2 gets made, and again, I do think it will, I'm just annoyed about how long it's taken, then yeah, Leo, please donate your services to Heat 2, because I think I speak for all of the Michael Mandom when I say that we really need this to happen. And I'll go on record right now and say that, Leo, I will watch every movie you make after this point if you star in Heat 2. Even the bad ones, which are rare for you, but just saying, I will be there. And yeah, again, I just want to reiterate, I do think that Heat 2 is going to get made. But again, just the fact it's taken so long, the fact that a filmmaker like Michael Mann can be forced to really just kind of... Again, we don't know for sure. We don't know if his vision has been constrained slightly by the lowering of the budget, but Heat 2 is an ambitious, globe-trotting story, you know, kind of lending itself to Mann's more recent storytelling sensibilities that we saw in something like A Black Hat, which was similarly globe-trotting. I understand why he'd need a big budget, and I just hope that that vision does not get compromised because WB, you know, want to scrimp a few pennies, as has been their modus operandi since David Zaslav came on board in like 2023. But yeah, obviously, regardless of all this, I'm super duper excited about Heat 2. I cannot wait for this thing to get made. Go read the novel if you haven't already, because it is fantastic and just tells a story that I wouldn't expect a Heat follow-up to actually be. Yeah, just let me know what you think of it all down in the comments below. How do you feel about Heat 2's production journey? Are WB actually in the right to be a little bit cautious on the budget side of things? Or is it just kind of a little bit of a piss take that they're able to get one of our greatest auteurs to maybe, you know, slightly compromise his vision? I hope that's not the case. I hope that we get all of the globe-trotting dynamism of the original Heat 2 novel in the movie version, but that remains to be seen. Either way, you know, let me know what you think of that. Let me know who you want to fan cast in the movie as well. I think Adam Driver and Austin Butler are basically shoo-ins at this point. But who would you have as Cerrito? Maybe I've seen Stephen Graham get optioned as a potential candidate for him. But yeah, let us know. And I've been Ewan, obviously. Heat 2, let's make it happen. Let's all be there day one. And I'll see you next time. Because the heat's coming around the corner and I've gotta get out. Didn't even do the quote properly then, god damn it.